3:18 in the afternoon on the Afternoon Drive with Mike Lee. Glad to have you here this afternoon. And in the studio with me, broadcasting here on Mix 104.1 and live on MixTV.tv,
served by Tzatziki's weekday.
is Dr. Brian Mitchell. He's a cardiologist at the Chattanooga Heart Institute. While you weren't paying attention in science class, he was. And it has served him well. Dr. Mitchell, great to have you here.
Thank you.
And let's see here. You're with the Chattanooga Heart Institute. You work at the Cleveland office?
That's correct.
Okay, and you've been with the Chattanooga Heart Institute since '04.
That's right. I came in 2004, actually.
That's great. And your specialty is imaging?
I do imaging and what we call general cardiology. Most of what I do is really just see patients and make decisions based on that in education.
How many men do you run into that are scared to death to go to the cardiologist because of what they'll hear? And I mean, that's a very common thing, isn't it?
It is. It's I have to say that a fair amount of them are brought in by spouses or significant others, to be honest.
That's a person that loves you very much.
Yeah.
When they do that. It really is. Fear of the doctor took my brother's life. He was 64, wouldn't go to doctors. He was a very intelligent guy, but he had this phobia, and it turns out what killed him, which was it was a cardiovascular disease, but it could have easily been monitored or treated with medication had he gone. And that's always, as much as I mourned him, I was angry because he wouldn't go, and he'd been asked by his son, by me. And so I want to encourage men to get a regular checkup. How often should men, say, over 40, see their cardiologist?
Well, usually people come in to see a cardiologist if they have a particular symptom. The most common symptom, obviously, is some sort of chest discomfort, but also shortness of breath, heart racing, feeling like passing out. And oftentimes it's referred from a primary care provider, but I do see men that are married to women, for instance, or parents or kids of other patients I have, and often just at least to get evaluated. And it's not as much a regular unless you have a specific problem, like cholesterol or high blood pressure. But I do try to do testing to evaluate if another problem exists.
And tell us more about the Chattanooga Heart Institute.
Okay. We're a group of 28 cardiologists and 4 cardiothoracic surgeons, so fairly large. And of that 28 cardiologists, there are some that are specialists in doing procedures like interventions, opening arteries, work on valves in the heart through the leg. And there are some that work on pacemakers and do electrical work on the heart, and others that do a lot of imaging of the heart to try to evaluate. But all of us see patients.
And it's talking here about collaboration between the cardiologist and the cardiothoracic?
Yeah, the cardiothoracic surgeons. They so the cardiologists in our group work with the CT surgeons. We call them CT surgeons for short. And oftentimes
I understand why.
We have a lot of collaboration by the fact that technology has changed, and a lot of what we do actually is without cutting people open through the chest. And so what you have is a decision based between people that do that and people that fix things through blood vessels in the legs to reach the heart. And so with that collaboration, you have a group of individuals picking the best care for the patient based on opinions from both the two different modalities.
It's amazing with the technology now. Back in the 70s, my dad had a triple bypass, and it looked like they'd done an autopsy on him.
That's correct.
And now, I mean, it's so much less invasive.
There are some that we have that you can even go in through a lateral incision in the chest and do bypassed through a very, very little scar left. And oftentimes that's the kind of bypass that can be done. Although the routine heart surgery can be through the middle of the chest, they can fix valves through the side and in addition to bypasses too.
That's amazing. All right. I was looking at the American Health Association?
Yeah, American Heart Association, AHA
Heart
for
Association,
short.
Okay. Their heart disease statistics. These are just absolutely stunning, and not in a good way. The heart disease, it's been a #1 killer in the U.S. for more than a century.
That's correct.
Wow. On average, someone dies of cardiovascular disease every 34 seconds.
That would be probably correct.
And approximately every 40 seconds, someone in the U.S. is going to have a heart attack.
And that doesn't encompass the other problems we deal with, including certain rhythms that put people at risk of stroke, which is a common cause of mortality, but mostly morbidity, leaving you with a poor quality of life. So those are other things that we deal with.
Well, how do they get a hold of you? We're talking to Dr. Brian Mitchell. He's a cardiologist at the Chattanooga Heart Institute since 2004 and specializes in imaging. How do they get a hold of you? And who should be getting a hold of you?
I think, anyone that has a particular complaint that's concerned with a strong family history, risk factors with high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, someone whose primary doctor who felt that those were true symptoms of potential heart involvement are the most important to come through.
All right, and they can reach you at the Chattanooga Heart Institute, 423-697-2000, correct?
That's correct. That's our main number to get in, and then we have all 28 of us are through about 5 offices, I think, and I'm in the Cleveland office.
Okay.
So, depending on where you live and where this is transmitted to, we have offices over on Gun Barrel. We have the downtown office on LaSalle Avenue. We have a Hickson office. We have an office in Jasper. We have one in North Georgia, near Ringgold, and then our Cleveland office, which has been an office here, I guess, maybe 25, 28 years.
So the Cleveland office would be great for our listeners in Dayton, Athens, Sweetwater, Benton,
Absolutely.
Ottawa.
It's very convenient to get to. Not much traffic coming to Cleveland that way. It's getting more, but it's still not anything comparable.
Dr. Brian Mitchell, you did a great job. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you have a wonderful day. 3:25 here on the Afternoon Drive, and let's have a look at those streets. It's a Don Ledford Highway Patrol traffic update. Don Ledford, choose from GM.